Hi, everyone. Welcome to Chasing Collectibles Catch-Up. I'm Tyler.
I'm Lauren.
Tim.
Hey. Yeah.
We're trying to look like professionals. This is our 10th episode, and I thought you'd be, at this point, we're used to the process. You got to say, I'm
No,
Tim.
I didn't hear anything. I think I'm having the lag on my end. The first thing I heard was Tim. I'm like,
I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to keep it. No, one take only. So we're here with for our special 10th episode, and I'm super excited for our guest today. Mr. Shelton Drum is with us here today, the owner of Heroes Are Not Hard to Find out of Charlotte, and also operator of the big Heroes Con that happens every summer here in the Charlotte area. So Shelton, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I know you've been involved in comics for a while. And just to start us off, I wanted to ask you, what was the first comic that got you hooked and got you started on this journey that you're on today?
Spider-Man #7. I didn't buy it off the newsstand. A friend of mine had it. I was already reading comics, I guess, Harvey's and, funny animal stuff. But he had that Spider-Man comic, and boy, that just hit me, and I read them as I could find them. And then I realized that I really needed them all. So yeah, that started back in the, around 64, I guess, 1964. I was about 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
64. Yeah. Wow. That's quite a while ago.
That's the year that I was born.
But I mean, you know what though, Shelton, you really don't look like you were, started collecting in 64. You don't look it. You've been aging well.
I just celebrated 68 years.
Oh, awesome. What?
And about 55 of those have been in the comic book.
Wow.
Man, long time.
That was in the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah.
I made this comment to we talked to Larry Allen, and he mentioned, kind of buying comics when he, the same kind of era that you were in. And it was kind of cool being like, you were buying Silver Age comics when they were just like, that was the present age. So that's pretty neat.
Exactly. Yeah, there were new comics.
Yeah.
I remember you could get the whole Marvel line for about $1. I mean, they only had 8 titles there for quite a while.
Wow.
And
I would love that today. So
that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I talk to Dave Hinson sometimes. We all know Dave.
Yeah.
And he actually told me that you got him into collecting and selling, and I'm just kind of curious how.
The question you sent me earlier said that he said that the question you sent me earlier was that Dave said that he got me into comics, but it is the other way around. Like I said, I was selling comics pretty early. The only place to find old comics really was the flea market, the Midland Flea Market out on Highway 21, Statesville Highway, I guess. And I started going out there looking for books, and I'd already been buying collections and buying multiples at the newsstand, and I'd been in already for a couple of years. And it's like after 6 or 7 months of going out there, like, hell, I got more comic books than these people do, extras to sell. And I started setting up out there. And I guess it was a couple of years into that, maybe 75, 6, somewhere along there. By and saw stuff and looked at the prices and said, wow, you getting this much for this? I'm like, yeah. They said, man, we got some old comic books. What do you give us for them? I said, well, bring them out. We'll look at them. I'll make you an offer. And we got together, and I made the offer. I said, well, you got to pay expenses and do business. It wasn't, but I don't know, 6 months later or less that he and Keith were out there selling comic books with us. So I've known Dave since mid-70s. He's a good friend.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Long
Uh,
time.
I opened my store and I think he opened in 81 or 82. So like I say, we kind of parallel for a long, long time.
Mhm. Was Dave always here? Like, you know, he told me about before he had
Sorry.
a shop in Rock Hill and then in Fort Mill. Was he like always in the Rock Hill Fort Mill area?
Yep. He grew up in Rock Hill, I think. I think his first store was in Fort Mill, and then he moved and had a store in Rock Hill for a little bit, and then he moved back to Fort Mill until he retired. But I think he lives in Rock Hill.
Yeah.
So let's see, you were mentioning the fact that the Spider-Man #7 was your first book that got you hooked. I'm curious if you currently own or have ever owned a copy of the big one, Action Comics #1.
I feel very dumb. When I was chasing $10 Spidey 1 or Amazing Fantasy 15, I could have bought an Action 1 or Detective 27 for a couple $100 maybe. You know, they were out there. But I wasn't interested in Golden Age. I actually thought it was kind of ugly and dumb, you know. It's like I was all about Marvel Universe in the mid 60s. I've since come to appreciate Golden Age comic books, but no, I've never had an Action 1. I did have a Marvel Comics #1 for a short period of time. I actually had it on consignment for a guy, and I got to carry it around for about 6 months until it sold.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So how back in the day then, because I know like today you see Amazing Fantasy 15 and it's, you know, it always catches your eye, you know, those big books. How frequently back then when you were first getting into it, were you able to find, you know, those really early ones?
It wasn't that easy then either. The difference between then and now is there are more places and more people out there selling comic books, and obviously the internet. I lived in a little small town, Newton, North Carolina, and the only place I could find comics was at the drugstore. We didn't even have a newsstand, you know. So we had 3 drugstores. One of them sold the 12-cent comics, another one sold the 25-cent comics, and the other store we didn't have a junk shop of any kind that sold books. So if I found comic books, it was from a friend or maybe a friend of my sister or something like that. She was a little older than me, and I did find a couple from her friends, but there wasn't the market that there is now. There was always a race to get that Comics Buyer's Guide early and get it open and scan it and see who had something you wanted to buy, and you call them and they say, I already sold it, you know, because everybody in the country was using that same vehicle.
Yeah. Well,
you can buy Amazing Fantasy 15 now. All you need is the money.
Yeah,
because you can find them.
That's it. You know, just the money.
Yeah, all you need is the money.
Well, I've actually got. That's my Amazing Fantasy 15. That's an actual piece from it. Nick gave me that.
That little chip right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're a nice guy.
That's gonna go to send it to CGC. Send it to CGC.
I teared up. I couldn't believe it.
It's the little things that matter.
Yeah. In my heart, I know it's the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the #1 that someone sold at auction of Action? I mean, that was crazy. What did it bring? I don't know. It was just the #1 cut off the cover of an Action 1.
Man.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
That was not too long ago. It was recently. It made some news.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw something about that.
Yeah, but then was just get any grade copy you could get. just to say you had it and you could get the run together and read it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over time, you start looking for better ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first Spidey one I got for 40 cents.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, that's a really good deal.
1969. Howard Rogowski ran ads in the comic books. And I sent off and got his catalog. It was $7 for a Spidey one. Boy, I wanted that book so bad. That was so much money. And so I put out feelers, classmates. Anybody got any comic books? Anybody know anybody who has comic books? And by the time someone did respond with books, that Spidey one had gone from $7 to $10 in Rogowski's catalog. And this kid in my class said, yeah, there's an older guy that rides my bus. He said he had something. I said, well, get a list, see what he's got. What does he want for him? And he wrote up the list, and most everything was 10 cents or 15 or 20. And he had 40 cents on Spider-Man 1. And I bought it that weekend, among other things. And then ended up buying all of his Marvels for, I don't know, probably $20 or something. And that's what kind of got me started on buying and selling, because that produced some duplicates in my collection by buying his whole bunch. And so I started building extras from there. But yeah, 40 cents, pretty good deal. Still got that one.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Really good deal. Well, we know that this summer, the con, this is the 40th anniversary of the con. But take us back to the first Heroes Con, because now it's in the big convention center. Lots of people go, lots of cosplaying and all that. When was the first convention, and what was it like?
Well, the first convention that was named Heroes Convention and was a multi-day show was 1982. It was at the Holiday Inn Woodlawn, 77 on Woodlawn Road. And I think I had about 400 or 500 people attend. I had a room full of dealers. Some of the dealers are still dealers in the room today.
Wow.
Dave Henson was there. I don't think Rick was there, Rick Fortenberry. So yeah, it started pretty small. I've been doing a Charlotte Minicon since January of 77. And I was doing that multiple times a year. That kind of segued into me opening a store, and then a couple of years I felt like I wanted to do something a little bigger. We were having one pro guest and some locals, at the mini cons, and I wanted to do something a little bit bigger for the first multi-day show, and that's when I brought me a Tung Hall, Mike Zeck, Pat Broderick, Jackson Butch Geis, and Sam Granger. So it was a big show. We had 6 or 7 guests. So, the first 3 or 4 years, the attendance doubled each year.
Wow,
that's amazing.
From 800 to about 12 or 1500, and it just kind of grew from there. I love it when people start their marketing and say they're going to have an old school comic show. It's like, hell, we just have a school show. I mean, it's never been, it's always been old school.
Yeah.
We haven't really changed in 40 years, the format, really. It's all about comics and the people who make them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about guests, because that kind of draws my attention. I started, when I moved down here about 8 years ago, it was probably my first year that I had ever attended a Heroes convention that summer.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I had seen a lot of guests, and I believe one of the guests there was Neil Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And I know throughout the years you've had, a lot of big names at your shows. And I'm just kind of curious, if you're able to, talk about the impact that somebody like Neil Adams, George Perez, these big guys in our industry that we recently, unfortunately, had lost.
Right. Well, I mean, Neil was always one of my favorites, from early 70s on. It was a big honor to finally get him down here as a guest. I'd seen him at other shows and, gotten autographs or whatever here and there, but to get him to come to my show was a big deal for me. And Neil was not only a great artist, he was quite a businessman. And he would come in with the product, and he did very well apparently, because after that first year, it was like always a dialogue. He's like, you come. So we had a good kind of business relationship, and I respected him, and I just loved his artwork. So that was fantastic. In regard to George, like I said, I met him even before the first Heroes Con. He'd been here for a mini con before that. When we were going to big con, he was with Marv and Romeo. Teen Titans #1 was the hot book at the time. That kind of put us on the map, I think, having that creative team at that time. And George is a pretty regular guest for, a decade or more. So he became a real ambassador for me. Helped us, find our place in the world, I guess you might say. Made a lot of friends here. Everybody who met George just considered him a friend and just loved him as much as they could,
He was awesome.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
To the very end, he was awesome. I mean, when he wrote that piece about his terminal illness and how he was going to handle it, he gave everybody a chance to say goodbye.
Yeah. I remember I wrote a few things to him. And I mean, his Teen Titans run, that run was a big run. It took me a while to complete it, and it's the second, and biggest Teen Titans run I own. And Neil Adams, I love sitting through his panels.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like always so humorous and funny.
Yeah.
And had a way about talking about his past experiences with the changing of Batman and his impact on DC. That was, you just, if you were in the room with Neil, he had your attention when he was talking.
Yeah. I've got a lot of comic books. I got a big warehouse full, and I sort stuff constantly, putting things where they all go. And I've been trying to catch up with a bunch of DCs to get an order, and just recently. And it's like every other book I touch is either Neil Adams or George Perez when it comes to DCs that we all collect. George, of course, was one of my favorite Marvel artists too. So I don't know what we've done without him.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be where we are.
No.
I'm in my full-time job, I'm a social studies teacher, and I talk to my students a lot about how like comics kind of reflect the culture, and they're just as part of history as they are, anything else. Captain America's first appearance is him punching Hitler in the face. And you kind of see in the 70s with what Neil Adams and Dennis O'Neil were doing with, kind of pushing the boundaries of what the comic book code allowed. And, there's that famous cover of like the Green Arrow walking in on, it's shooting up, and I thought it was always really cool what they did to really push the bound at the time.
Yeah, they kind of abolished the code single-handedly.
And not to get too heavy on here, but I thought what was nice with George Perez is, for a lot of folks, I feel like it's after they pass away that people really tell them how much they appreciate them. But I feel like in the months up until he passed, I think the whole comic book community kind of came together and said, we really do appreciate you. And so that was kind of nice.
Nobody was ever an enemy or someone who didn't like George if they ever met him or saw his work. I mean, there was no downside to George Perez.
Yeah,
he was just a great.
I remember seeing the one episode of that show from Jersey. Name escapes me now. Kevin Smith owned a shop.
Comic Book Man. I
think it was Comic Book Man. I think it was Mike Zeck had lost his collection in Hurricane Sandy, and the fellows got together and had George Perez draw him a personalized. I can't remember who it was. Mike Zeck's favorite character. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I thought that was just he doesn't have to do that. That was just the coolest thing ever. I mean, he put his time into it, and he just gave it to him. I just thought that was just the coolest thing.
I put out there on social media that if anyone wanted to send George a card or a letter, to send it to us, because they didn't want to release his address and be inundated there. But I collected mail, and I was going to go see him, but the days I was in Florida, he just wasn't up to visitors. So when I got back, I boxed it all up. I had 10 pounds of letters. Then I shipped down to George. And that was in February. So hopefully he got a chance to hear all those letters and cards and stuff. I'm sure those last couple of months were pretty tough, but he was always smiling in those pictures.
He was. What another figure who we lost in the past 4 years, who was really beloved and came to Heroes Con, was Stan Lee. And you mentioned, you were very quick to say when we asked you that first comic was Amazing, Spider-Man 7, and you got to meet him. And I even saw you had like a party at the shop with him once. So I was wondering if you just talk a little bit about your interactions with Stan Lee.
Well, I had him at Heroes Con 3 times. He was another one who really ramped up our visibility back in 1984. Is the first time I had him down, and that was cool. He was here for just the day, and I've got a picture of my mom just beaming because she knew how important Stan was to her little boy collecting comic books. He was so good and so nice that first time, and then he got bigger and bigger and bigger in his heart. We had him back again in 2012, which would have been our 30th anniversary. And boy, it was awesome. I mean, he was so gracious with, just sign autographs just all day and photographs, and spent time with Make-A-Wish kids and stuff like that. And again, the last time we had him was in 15, and he had slowed down a little bit, but not too far. I drive a Jeep, and I took him to the airport that time when he was leaving, and my Jeep's pretty high. Man, he just jumped in the Jeep. I mean, he was just so spry still. But I cherish those times for sure. That party.
Stan the man.
What's that?
I said, Stan the man.
Stan the man Lee. Actually, the first time I met him was in his office in 1973.
Oh, wow.
I, like a dummy, drove to New York. I want to go meet Stan Lee. I wanted to draw. I wanted to draw Spider-Man. Come on, who doesn't? When you're 18 years old, it's like I can do anything.
That's like a dream come true.
Yeah, it was cold. I mean, cold call. Sam Granger was our local artist at the time. He inked a lot of Marvel books back in the late 60s, and I looked him up in the phone book, and I told him who I was. And I said, "Hey, I want to draw comics. Can you introduce me to Stan Lee?" He says, "I've never met Stan Lee. I've never been to New York." And he said, "Good luck." So anyway, I went, and So when I got to the office, I told the receptionist that I was here and I'd like to meet Stan. And she said, we don't give tours actually, unplanned. I said, well, from North Carolina and blah, blah, blah. Found out that was Stan's daughter. She comes back and says, well, we don't usually do this, but since Stan's my dad, he said it'd be all right. So I'm going to let y'all in. And it was me and my girlfriend at the time. And she introduced me to John Porton, who was the production manager. John will show you around. So he took us to Stan's office and I got to talk to him for like 5 minutes. And he said, but if you want to draw comics, you need to talk to John Romita. He's right down the hall. And
Oh, wow.
John Romita spent 45 minutes with me. He had a closet full of submissions that weren't going to make it. And they were all better than I could ever do. But it was just a great time. Jim Starlin was in the bullpen. The bullpen really didn't exist then. I mean, there were some work tables in there. There were some writers in the room. But Starlin was on one of the drawing tables doing Master Kung Fu cover for number 17, I think it was. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Watching him work. He's only a couple years older than me. It's like, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Wow.
For about 6 months, it's going to happen. But it was a great experience. Stan Lee is he's real high on my list.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip back to the convention side of things, and I've always been curious with especially this day and age with this big show that you put on every year. Can you bring us through some of the logistics of such a large event over 3 days? And what are some of the challenges of making that happen? And how early do you start actually planning for this series of days in advance?
Well, I guess theoretically we start a little over a year in advance because we try to advertise next year's show at this year's show. So we got to get a date and some artwork and hopefully maybe a little short guest list to talk about. But in reality, it starts after the first of the year. Once you got the holidays behind you, January is pretty much, a dead heat for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Confirming guests and getting enough hotel rooms has been a real challenge. The Westin has 700 rooms, and I think we have people in 550 of them.
Wow. That's awesome.
So we're using the Embassy, and I know a lot of people have already booked into the Hilton and a couple of other hotels uptown we're putting people in too. So that's a real challenge. You want to make sure that you do right by the guests that you've invited.
Yeah.
So, making airline reservations that work for them, keeping track of all that stuff, getting the room on the right days and the right configuration of, king bed, 2 beds, whatever. So a lot of details like that. And I'm real as easy and smooth as possible for the pros that we invite. We also have a huge number of vendors coming, and I'm a vendor at a lot of places, and I know what is good and what is not good when it comes to getting in, getting set up. So trying to think about what the vendors need. Just the hours of the show, how much time they need to set up, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of tricky this year because we've had 2 years of not doing it, and you forget stuff, or you're afraid you're going to forget stuff. So we're trying to get back on the horse,
Yeah.
Now, do you have a team of people that work with?
It's a huge team. We've got a multitude of people. Me and Carl and Seth.
Oh, come on. You got to have more than that to get all these people here from different parts of the country. You got to have some sort of a.
Carla does the majority of that work too. And it really is just three of us. Seth's working real hard on programming, panels and stuff. He works very closely with the indie artists. Indie Island's pretty much his curated area.
Yeah.
But Carla's making those airline reservations or at least keeping track of them and doing the hotel stuff for guests. And she knows everything about the vendors. That's her. I couldn't do it without her. She's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And I know Seth is already busy, on a regular day. I know Seth is pretty busy guy, always working with back issue stock and,
Seth was a customer when he was, I guess, 10 or 12 years old. And he stayed a customer, went through college and a couple of different jobs. And it just worked out right that he needed a job when I needed somebody in the warehouse. And that's where he started, was putting my but he's just grown through all the steps that we do. And, he's invaluable. I mean, the order forms are so confusing now. And it's not just once a month like it used to be, with FOC and 3 different distributors. You've got FOCs on 3 different days. You got order forms deadline at different times. We try to keep up with all our reserve customers and what they want, their special orders and this variant and that variant. God, if I had to do an order form, it'd be over, guys. I mean, it'd be all back issues that Heroes aren't hard to find. So yeah, I mean, he's wearing lots of hats. We all are, I've got good retail people who take the heat off of us so that we can do those Heroes Con things for half the year.
Yeah.
Not so much for Seth. He's still in the store all the time.
Yeah.
And then he'll escape for a while and work on his programming and get to the warehouse when he can, help me with, sorting stuff and pulling orders and all that.
Yeah, that's great. So we're coming up to, the 40th Heroes Convention now. I'm wondering, it's right, 40th. I'm wondering how have, since you first started doing Heroes conventions to now, what changes have happened, and to expand on that, in the comic book community that you've seen, how have things changed?
Like in comic book collecting in general, or?
Comic book collecting. And then, if you want to start with my first question regarding the convention, from your first convention to now.
It's just bigger. Like I said earlier, we were a comic book convention first, not a multimedia pop culture show, but comic book show. And over the years, I guess we've had some other influences come in. We had some Magic tournaments back in the day. We all have cosplay at shows now, whether you like it or not. You're going to have costumers, which is great because other people enjoy seeing that. The kids really love it. So it's like an attraction that we're not booking and paying for.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. My daughter does it at every one of your shows.
Yeah, well, we love it. But at the core, we're still a comic book convention. I mean, out of our 400 vendors or 500 vendors or whatever it is, 80% of them are selling comic books. And the others are probably selling toys that come from comic books. There's very little outside of that. So I guess we are that old school show where you can find the comic book you want. And most other big shows are pop culture shows where they've got actors and they've got gaming and they've got all this other stuff going on. And we're not going to say don't come, but we're just not going to concentrate on that.
Okay.
We get emails every day from people who are representing, actors and wrestlers and pinup queens and all kinds of different attractions. It's like, thank you very much, but we're concentrating on the creators of comic books. So I guess that is the change in the industry, but not necessarily the change for us. From a business standpoint, the 80s, there were 15 distributors all carrying the same thing, and we could go with one or two or three or all of them to get product. And they were all looking to help you, and because they wanted your business. Now it's so segmented. We used to have Marvel DC at the show. They were pushing. They don't pay attention to shows of my size or type anymore. They're at San Diego, but that's a pop culture show. It's not a comic book convention. And any of the, the big corporate shows are kind of like that. So again, that's the change in the industry, not so much the change in us.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds very magnanimous, I guess, but it's really just selfishness because that's what I like.
Yeah.
And, it's my show.
Yeah.
Bring me the comic books.
Yes.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I wanted to ask, because the three of us, we're all pretty much like committed to comics at this point. Like we've all started collecting at some point. Dave's Comics was the store I first started going to. Then I went to Nickel Spot, worked there for a little bit, and we don't have really a local store in York County anymore. So I go to your store to get my books, and I've got my comic book budget on the same spreadsheet as my utility bills and all that. So they're not going anywhere. But I guess we're committed. But if someone's saying to you like, hey, I wanted to get into comics, I want to start collecting or start reading, what would be your advice? A new, someone 18 years old or someone just fresh walks into your store and says, I want to start buying. What do you say to them?
Usually the first question I ask is, what TV shows or movies do you like? Because there's probably a comic book about it or that, begat that. You got to start somewhere, so just get in there and start reading and read what you like. You say collecting and reading sometimes are two different things. Not everybody reads the comic books they collect. And not everybody keeps the comic books.
That's me. I'll buy my Spidey books and stick them in a box. I don't even read. I don't even know what's going on.
Well, I don't either. Not all the time. I try to keep up, but I don't actually read every one every month. I think a lot of us get into a habit. I've been collecting this thing for 20 years or 30 years or whatever. I got to keep buying them, so I'll have them all. But I think there's a segment in the industry for everybody, for whatever way you want to collect or read or do. Some people just want to buy and sell, make money. That's fine. Other people want to have one of everything and read them all. So reader copies are okay. It doesn't matter what the grade is. A lot of times there's a space in the middle. Reader savers are who we love the best. People who want to read the story and they take care of the book and save it. And maybe somewhere down the road, if they decide they want to sell them, they've got something. If they read them and then use them as a coaster, maybe they're not going to be worth too much. But but reader savers are kind of like the backbone of the industry, and you've got to read what you like. Don't get it if it's not something that really interests you. If you're the reader, if you're buying it on speculation, good luck. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you.
Yep. I know a guy out of San Francisco who collects Spider-Man toys. He's actually I think he's an orthodontist, and his whole office is completely Spider-Man. And he's one of those guys, they call him a completist. So he tries to collect every appearance, regardless if it's just
Sure.
one panel of anything that Spider-Man is in. So he's got quite the
We have
no
we
pun
have that.
intended, but amazing collection.
By the third issue, if a Marvel comic needs a boost, Spider-Man's going to be in there, guest appearance, because it's going to boost sales. Where I was going with that, but it's enjoy what you're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you enjoy it because you're making money on it, that works too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I think I've been collecting Spideys for almost 30 years now. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. And I've pretty much read almost every single Spidey book I have.
That's great. You're the reader saver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get all the variants?
No, but I do get quite a few.
You froze up.
I do get quite a few.
Yeah. I guess variants are with us to stay. I just don't understand why they want to do all that extra work. And sell as many of that book as they can. That's just me, though.
yeah.
Another thing that drives me nuts is the reboots. Now we're on to Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man #1 yet again.
Yeah.
That drives me bonkers.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people my age, maybe between me and you, that decided that issue 441 completed their set, and they would just stop right there. I think Restarts lose as many people as it gains.
Yeah.
I don't think a #1 really changes the sales of the book anymore. Yeah, maybe for a month, but it's going to settle right back where it was, unless it's amazing, like really, really good. And if McFarlane comes back and does Spider-Man for a nice long run, then it's going to sell really good, and you don't need extra covers. It's just going to sell. It's still more about the story and art than it is about the number on the cover.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the way Mike Mignola numbered BPRD. He would have story arcs that would have a number of that arc on the cover, but if you look in the indicia, it's the whole number.
Mhm.
That's one continuous run.
Yeah.
And I don't see Batman, Spider-Man, the X-Men can't have the same kind of numbering system. They did the legacy number, and they still do, I guess. But just put the real number in the indicia and put whatever you want to on the cover to make it sell. But
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that would make sense.
don't give people a stopping place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you start over, it's a stopping place as much as a starting place.
Yeah. Excuse. It's an excuse to get off the exit.
Yeah. Yeah. I've bitched about this for years. It's not going to change. But anyway, read comics for what you like about them.
Yeah. Well, as we're wrapping up here, I just wanted to say, and Lauren and Tim, if you wanted to say anything here, I've always, I always did Dave's, Charlotte Comic-Con, but Heroes was like the first big convention I went to, and starting in like high school, and I've always loved it. And because of what happened, with COVID, it had to go on pause, and I think everybody understood that. And I'm really looking forward to the convention. It's going to be nice having the Heroes 40th.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember whenever Nick and I would set up there, just some of the people that I would see. I remember one time I saw Charlie Benante. He's the drummer from Anthrax. And I'm like, that was Charlie Benante.
Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't leave the booth. You know,
Yeah.
Nick is off wandering around. And then
That's
there was
cool.
another time right across the aisle, there was gosh, what's his name? He was from Run DMC. I think it was Run.
Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl. Yeah.
Yeah.
I walked over there.
DMC.
Yeah. And I walked over there and he was doing some sort of a rap,
Yeah.
you know, comic
You know,
style rap.
he's a celebrity outside of comics.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
so he did a
But
video.
he also writes a comic. So
he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Run
right. Yeah.
DMC has a comic book.
Yeah. And he did a video with me in it.
A legitimate
Doing his rap.
comic book creator. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to see Method Man, you know,
Yeah.
do something with Marvel. I know he kind of, I think he does like podcasting with Marvel. I've listened to a number of his podcasts, and you know, I would love to see him either, you know, put on a suit in a movie, or you know, write a book or something, you know, because he's a big comic book guy too.
I'm not real well versed in rap. I appreciate it, I guess. But I think Method Man has done some kind of comic collaboration with Sanford Green. I know Sanford did some stuff with or for him some years ago. So maybe there is something out there. You know, with people like that, it's a matter of if they like to do something like a con, or if they have an opening in a schedule, because, you know, they're making money on the stage somewhere, and they can't just drop everything to come sign autographs for us. But, you know, it's cool when it happens. Glenn Danzig was a vendor at my 1985 show. And
Oh wow.
we've been friends ever since. I sold him his X-Men #1 back in the day. And he did an appearance at my store when he launched Verotic and was doing a show at the Capri Theater down on Independence. So, you know, it happens. It's serendipitous, I guess, mostly when it does happen like that.
Yeah.
We'll see. You never know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
I would like to say tickets are on sale at heroesonline.com. We'd love to get, you know, all the advance tickets sold that we can, buy these plane fares and airfares and hotel rooms. So y'all are helping us out when you buy tickets in advance. Something about cosplay. We're not having a cosplay contest this year. We're having cosplay runway shows each day of the show, and a lot of cosplay workshops and panels and stuff like that. We feel like everybody's a winner who contributes to the cosplay, and so that there won't be a contest, but there'll be a lot more cosplay than ever before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, had some people worry about that when we said we weren't having a contest, but we're just kind of rearranging the way we handle it and just celebrate it more than compete with it.
Yeah. Don't worry. I know you're still doing something big with cosplaying. My daughter has me ordering all sorts of things off Amazon for her to get ready.
Very good. Very good. I can't wait to see. She should have 3 costumes, one for each day, right?
Oh, my wallet. My wallet. That's cutting into my book money.
Oh,
I don't know that we've actually mentioned the exact dates quite yet.
Yeah. Was June 24, 5, and 6 this year. We used to always be on Father's Day pretty much all the time. We couldn't get that date. So we're a week after Father's Day. Don't be confused.
Awesome.
That's cool. That's on a weekend that I don't have to work, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get out there and check it out.
I hope so too. I'd like to see you guys set up maybe next year.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
would love that. We
that
would
be
really
a
love that.
blast.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun to make money while you enjoy what you like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Well,
right.
Well, Sheldon, this has been awesome. We really enjoyed talking with you. You've made our 10th episode really special, and we're all super excited for Heroes Con this June.
Thanks for having me on. I wish you guys all the best, and I look forward to seeing you next month.
All right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming
we'll be-
on today.
Well, you'll see us walking around, Shelton.
Who are you going to be? You got a cosplay thing worked out too?
Yeah, broke dad.
That's easy. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Bro.
See you later.
See ya.
Yay, comics!